Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, the Suns start a tough road trip in Utah on Tuesday. Suddenly already feeling like a very important win the Suns need to get. And did Kevin Durant's injury already cook their chances of competing in the NBA Cup? Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Suns. I'm Brendon Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen to kick off your Tuesday game day. Don't forget, Locked On Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button and do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode, guys, brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Start the season with a big return at FanDuel where new customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Joining me, as always, from the wonderful West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling on this Tuesday, Ben Garcia?
Yeah, I am completely over the loss from yesterday. I do not like losing, but I've had some time to marinate on it, and being 8-2 is still a lot of fun. It is still a lot of fun to be 8-2. And you could swing that game and do Kevin Durant didn't play, Yusuf Nurkic didn't play, and they almost won. So I am back on my high horse.
The other top team in the West just lost another big man, and we'll talk about that team momentarily because the Suns are about to play them, and they are dealing with even more of an injury hit than Phoenix is. So I think you have to feel pretty good regardless. But let's get to this Utah game because it is where the Suns start a important road trip, a Durant-less road trip, and the NBA Cup all kind of swirling here on Tuesday night, the beginning of a road back-to-back here. So Tuesday in Salt Lake City, Wednesday night in Sacramento. Quick turnaround for that rematch against the Kings where Ben can maybe feel even better if the Suns get some revenge out there. Durant obviously out, and Nurkic is questionable. So he leaves the game. He's questionable going into Sunday night's game. Leaves at halftime. Chance he plays with that left ankle soreness, but we're not exactly sure. Ben, this one is already feeling, because of how we kind of mapped out the upcoming schedule last night, and this is the one we both said, okay, you got to get that W to feel good about where you're going. This is suddenly a weirdly important game 11 games into the season against a bad team.
It's weirdly important because you and I have both talked about the Suns have all this margin for error that they've given themselves, similar to what the Thunder have, losing Chet Holmgren, but that's worse because that's a 10 to 12 week injury. But you want to keep that margin for error as much as you can, and the Jazz are easily, if I'm not mistaken, last time I looked at it, the worst team in the Western Conference, potentially the worst team in the NBA. If they beat the Jazz, you then go on against, and we talked about this yesterday, the Kings, Thunder, Timberwolves. You might be looking at potentially 3 straight losses. 3 straight losses, you can say to yourself, well, all really good teams. You're missing Kevin Durant. Whereas if you lose this Jazz game, Kings loss, Jazz loss, and you don't really feel good about the Kings, Thunder, and Timberwolves. And then your next gettable game feels like the Magic. So even if they go on a 6-game losing streak, the season is not over. But as much of a must win, which doesn't feel like the right word, as important as a game can be in the beginning of the season, this would be what would fit the bill. Don't you agree?
Yeah. And it feels, again, funny because it's a bad team, right? So like Utah this year, don't get it twisted. The past few seasons, the Jazz have been a team where if you caught them October, November, December, you had to kind of watch out. And then they would basically turn on the tank and bench their guys and everything else. That's not the case. They started badly. Like you said, they're 2-7. So they're basically doing the second half of the season thing all year this year. All the young guys are playing. They're spreading the minutes out. Keontae George gets the keys to the kingdom. He's shooting 32%. You know, it's ugly, and they're not doing the start John Collins thing. They're only giving Jordan Clarkson about 23 minutes a night Guys like Filipowski and Williams, they're rookies. Kessler, who barely played last year, they're all getting some real runs. So this is a developmental and a tanking season for the Jazz. And so, again, you should be able to take care of business. With or without Nurkic, with or without Durant, the Suns should have the upper hand.
Really quickly, do you think, because we have the Nurkic injury, do you think the Suns are in a spot, this is kind of a double-edged sword here, that they feel like they can still rest Nurkic, even though you and I both believe this game is somewhat of significance? Can you go into that game without Nurkic and Durant and still feel pretty good? The line right now is -2. They're a slight favorite on the road against the Jazz. And then I'll let you
that feels like an overreaction to the injuries or something. I don't know. Maybe just the fact that they just lost on Sunday or something. But no, I think you can win this game without Nurkic,
both
in my opinion. Right? I mean, I think, and because it's a back-to-back, if you're asking me which game, if I'm only getting one from Nurk, I'm going to take the Kings game, right? I mean, it's Sabonis. It's a tougher team. It's one you just lost that you probably emotionally want to get a win. So it's Walker Kessler, but I mean, I think Filipowski is basically their backup center. He was a late first-round pick. He fell for some off-court reasons, if people remember, but like still,
it's
he's
a
rookie.
Wild story. Story.
So like, if you're asking me if Oso Ighodaro can match him or, play some spare minutes and match John Collins or whatever, it's like, I'm just not super afraid of this team, especially in the front court. So
that's a good point.
That's how I would lean. But where this gets us quickly, because it is the first NBA Cup game, Ben, is it kind of puts the Suns in a weird situation. But before we even read off or give our takes or anything else, I'll remind people of who's in the Suns group. But separate from all of that, are you a person who cares about the NBA Cup as like a competitive thing for teams, or is it just whatever to you?
Last year, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. They were able to replicate playoff-like atmosphere. Teams were shortening their benches to like 7 and 8 guys.
Yeah.
You got a preview of the playoffs before that. And then I quickly realized this is kind of stupid. No one cares. And the Lakers are going to play an extra game in the championship. This old team. And then the Lakers won the in-season tournament and didn't even make the playoffs, if I'm mistaken.
Yeah, to me, that's kind of the point. That's kind of why it's cool.
Okay.
I think the Pacers ended up getting a little lucky and proving the NBA Cup right in a way with their run to the conference finals. But the Pacers were like a potential first-round exit team in another universe as well. So to me, those are the kinds of teams, frankly, that I expected to really take this seriously. And I guess maybe nobody cared in terms of TV viewership, but I think it worked. I mean, you kind of proved the point of why it worked at the beginning of your answer, but then you said you didn't like it. So I don't know where you're
I
falling,
was into it.
Did bring some competitive juice out.
It did. And I remember even specifically, Devin Booker was heaving up a last-minute 3 against the Hornets last year. At the last second when they're already, because the point differential, like the players cared as well. I just, with an older team, with my eyes set on an NBA championship, it's hard for me to get excited for something that if they win it and they don't win the championship, I'm a little out on. I would ask you, for people like me who are still kind of trying to buy in, I was at first, but now I'm not so much. What do you think the NBA has to do to make this even better? Do you give the winner of the in-season tournament?
I think it's just time.
An automatic playoff
I think
spot?
it'll just be more normal over time, and teams will kind of approach it however they approach it. I mean, it's the same thing in soccer overseas, which is kind of what it's modeled after. There's teams who don't really put a lot of juice into these lower-level tournaments, but some teams that are maybe building or not the top of the top, they care a little more, and it's just a little extra wrinkle. But I'll be clear. I was throwing it at you as a general thing, and then we were going to talk about the Suns, and you basically are saying from a Suns standpoint, you don't care about it. We're on the same page there. Mm-hmm. I don't think the Suns should care about this besides the KD injury. If you had asked me on Thursday of last week before we ever knew Durant got hurt, I would have said it doesn't matter. The Suns are not in a situation with an older team with very much a championship or bust type of mentality to sit here and be playing 40 minutes and, throwing the everything at the wall to try to beat the Utah Jazz on a Tuesday just to get some point differential help in the NBA Cup standings. But let's read off the odds the group, because again, the Suns do play two of these things this week. The Lakers, Spurs are the other two, and then Jazz, Thunder, who are the games this week. That's the Suns group. West Group B. It's not that tough, so kind of like last year, I could see the Suns just sort of lucking into one of these quarterfinal games the way that they did in 2023, Ben. But as far as really pushing for it or doing the chucking at the ends of these games and things like that, I don't think this should be a priority, especially now with the fact that Durant is out and you just got to tread water here.
I don't know why, but I still want them to make it to the semifinal game, but then also lose because I don't want them playing an extra game. But if they make the finals, I hope Budenholzer does a big old middle finger and just plays all of his rotational guys. Gives Devin Booker the night off, Kevin Durant the night off, Bradley Beal the night off, and just throws out Oso Ighodaro, and we have a Ryan Dunn-esque game. That'd be funny. But I do want them to go far because I just want people to watch the Suns, and I know it'll be in Vegas, and that'll be kind of cool. But the idea,
nice home court advantage. I mean, Phoenix would show up for Vegas.
That's a good point too. And it'd be a fun little trip to go. You know what? Maybe you and I should go.
Go watch Colin Gillespie win the MVP of the NBA Cup in your imagination. It would be kind of
cool to have that. But the idea of them even potentially playing one extra game, I'm just so out on. If Bradley Beal or Devin Booker, it's so Phoenix, it's so on brand for Phoenix sports. They play in the finals and one of them rips up an ankle or gets a concussion and they miss 3 weeks or something insane. That is why I'm like, those guys cannot play in that game. If Tyus Jones pulls a hammy in the freaking finals, I will be so angry. So I'm excited, but I'm also like, don't make the finals. I don't want to play an extra game. I don't want to.
We are in agreement that Tuesday should and probably will be a win, so they'll set themselves up well there, but I don't expect them to prioritize this. Those semifinal and final games will be in about a month. Remember, people, they take the week off. They get their games scheduled for that week. If they don't make it all of a sudden, like 2 days beforehand, and they got to go travel, it's kind of a crazy situation, but that is what we have to look forward to over the next month on Tuesday and Friday nights. We'll cover both of those games as normal, but a little more in store. Let's get to one other wrinkle as the Suns navigate life without Kevin Durant regarding the starting lineup next. First, today's show brought to you by Mint Mobile. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. We've all seen how impossible it can be to try to get a new phone, add a new line. Your kid's a teenager now. You need that installed in there, or you just want to do a little more of that, a little more of this. How do I take advantage of the streaming service I'm supposed to be getting for free? It's all a mess. It's all overpriced. It's all crazy. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 per month, go to mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. $45 upfront payment required. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Alrighty, Ben, let's keep it rolling here. So one little wrinkle to the Kevin Durant conversation that we had to wrap up Monday's show that I want to get back to as far as who should replace him, getting the most minutes, playing the most with this starting group that I want to circle back to. But first, I want to remind everybody to sign up for the Locked On Suns daily newsletter. We talked about the NBA Cup. I want to have the most email signups of the NBA Cup group that we're in. West Group B. So that means Thunder, Lakers, Jazz, and Spurs. We need the most people from the everydayers, from the Valley Suns fans to sign up for our newsletter, get awesome Suns content, catch up with the show, support the show, and outdo all those other 4 or 5 fan bases that we don't like, that we don't care about. Does that sound doable? Do you think that's possible? I mean, the Lakers, that's a tough one.
The fact that the Lakers are still ahead of us, shake my head, Locked On Phoenix Suns fans.
I don't care that LA is like twice the size of Phoenix. We can do better.
Yeah, no one likes that city. No one. No one really likes LA.
The link is in the show description below, or you can go to LockedOnDaily.com, click the Suns logo there, the Locked On Suns logo, type your email address in. Get the best Suns news analysis and NBA news and analysis in your inbox every day. All right, Ben. So Ryan Dunn got the start on Sunday in the first game post KD. He came back from an ankle in record time. We spent like 10 minutes talking about his injury, and that made us look like idiots. He's back. He's a 20. He could care less about, popping an ankle on a fast break. So that's the first game. And then Royce O'Neale comes off the bench as he has, but ends up with more minutes than Ryan Dunn. I forgot my own take about Royce O'Neale. That's why I wanted to circle back. All last season I said this. I said it all summer. He is the type of player that is best with other great players. He complements with his playmaking, with his shooting, with his team defense, with his size. He is a player that you want out there with other good players. So it's making me reconsider my keep Dunn in that group take from yesterday when I think about how much balance Royce could provide. I have another Dunn point, but what do you think of that? The idea that Royce actually should be out there with the big 2, big 3 as much as possible.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with you more. Ryan Dunn is a big guy. Royce O'Neale is kind of fake big. You think he's bigger than he actually is. And with the absence of Kevin Durant, you are getting absurdly small. Kevin Durant, who's self-proclaimed 6'10", Nurkic 7 foot. You're already losing a couple inches already with Ryan Dunn. You're losing like 7 with Royce O'Neale, or like 6 with Royce O'Neale. I would like to get bigger, and I also just kind of want to see Ryan Dunn get some real reps and real minutes when he's probably going to be called upon when it's playoff time. So, yeah, I just because of the defense, the fact that we've seen him shoot relatively consistently from 3, and as well, just get a little bit bigger. I want to see Ryan Dunn there. Although right now, the better player is Royce O'Neale. But what was your point you were going to make?
Well, just to keep on that for a moment, we basically have seen none of the 5-man units with either of these guys alongside Beal, Booker, Jones, and Nurkic so far. Now, it might not be Nurkic. We don't know that part of it, but it's the other 4 people in the starting lineup stay the same, KD out and Dunn in his place, that's 12 possessions the whole season. I looked it up. 4 possessions with Royce in that spot. So we're basically pulling from imagination. We don't know. It's not like you just say, Royce has been great with those guys, so plug him back in. Royce was actually playing a lot with Durant, is kind of the interesting thing. And he basically has the whole time he's been on this team dating back to last year's trade deadline, whether you're talking about small ball lineups where they would use Royce in that spot a lot, or just maybe pulling from their chemistry from the Brooklyn days, whatever it was, Royce has actually played with Durant. So he hasn't played a lot with Durant off the court. So maybe that backs up your point. But as far as the Dunn side of it goes, here's the one concern. Obviously, he's going to be, the size point is super valid. Obviously, he's a player you can put on the opposing team's top wing, and you feel good about that. That's a strength of his that you can save Beal and save Grayson Allen and save Devin Booker from having to do. But I just have a little bit of a worry in the back of my mind that you're setting him up to immediately in these games, teams are going to dare him to shoot even more extremely than they do when he might come in the flow of a game and you're not really thinking about, like, being on a game plan in the first couple minutes of a game. I'll bet you if Dunn starts for the next 8 games while KD's out, there will be a game where the opposing team puts their center on Ryan Dunn and plays off of him and says, take all the threes you want. Beat us. And that's a lot to put on a rookie in a stretch that we agree is really big and replacing an MVP candidate. So that emotional and like mental toll, I get a little worried about, but maybe not enough to switch off now, but that's in my head for sure.
I mean, it's a decent point. I don't think it's outrageous. He was 0 for 3 last night from 3. And I've mentioned how I think how important it is for Ryan Dunn to hit that first 3, because I think that already just elevates his confidence. And still none of that shakes me. For me, I want to see Ryan Dunn get this opportunity to show out and get those meaningful, valuable reps that I think will just be invaluable come playoff time. So I get all that stuff. I'm not accusing you of this, because I think it is a valid point, but I'm not about putting the training wheels on players, and either you're NBA ready or you're not. And this kid, I think, is.
Here's the thing, and it's not even my point or my like just guessing or giving a take on it. Bud has basically been slow rolling. Like, we all get hyped.
You're right.
And yes, Dunn has had the opportunities when Beal has been out and Durant has been out to start, which is a very much of a sign of trust. But there's also been games where Dunn hasn't even cracked 10 minutes. So the team seems to want to be patient and not overdo it.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Coach Bud and you are 1000% on the same page. There is no rebuttal from me from that. Oftentimes when you and I are at the games, I'll look over to you and be like, has Ryan Dunn even played? Which I shouldn't even ask you. I should just look at the stat sheet right next to me. But it'd be like 7 minutes or 8 minutes. And I'm like, where is Dunn? Like, everyone knows here he can play. He's gotten the most buzz as a rookie, or at least a late round rookie. You're right, man. Even last night, 21 minutes. You know how many people messaged me or told me yesterday or today, why wasn't Ryan Dunn closing the game, including other media members who reached out to me?
Yeah.
And I was like, I wasn't going to kill Bud for that. DeMar DeRozan was just on one.
I don't think you kind of did kill him.
No, I didn't kill Bud for not putting in Dunn. I killed him for not sending someone, making life a little bit more difficult at DeMar DeRozan. I think anyone was going to hit. I think DeMar was going to hit those shots over prime Jordan at that point.
And I think that's kind of another confidence thing, right? Like, if DeRozan's just killing you, are you really going to throw the rookie out there and say, all right, you foul him, you get shot over the top of, right? So I don't know. I think it's interesting.
No, wait a second. Slow clap for you. I like that. I like that.
My best guess.
That's smart.
I would have done something really different too. I mean, I said that last night as well, but maybe that is speaking to the same point, which is that they want to not training wheels, but hand holding. What do we call it? I don't know.
Training wheels.
Sure.
It's I think you're wrong, but I think it is a really, really, really good point. Like, I think it's something there to think about. What I mean by I think you're wrong is I don't think you're wrong by the same wavelength or whatever that Bud is on. I think you're wrong about potentially putting Royce O'Neale in, but I think your point is supremely valid, if that makes sense.
So I'll just say, and it's not like a great prediction to make because it could be a bad thing for the team. I'm not going to say I told you so if it happens, but I am worried that it will, which is that on Friday, I mentioned Oklahoma City. No Chet, no Hartenstein right now. They started on Monday night as we're recording this. Aaron Wiggins at center, who's like 6'6". They will overload and basically zone up the backside and make Dunn shoot. Minnesota, it would not shock me if they put Rudy Gobert on him, if they put Naz Reid on him, and just threw those dudes and barricaded the rim and said, throw that pass to Dunn 3 times in the first 2 minutes and see what happens. And it'll be a test. I'm not even saying Dunn can't pass it. It'll just be fun to watch. That's what these growing pains and early season moments are for. And we'll see how the Suns handle it in terms of what that starting lineup looks like. Next, Mike Shearer, Locked On newsletter contributor, and writes a pretty darn good newsletter of his own, broke down Bradley Beal's defense, had some very interesting stats that might tell you Beal is playing the best defense of his career. We'll dive into those numbers and what we've seen from Beal so far next. First, today's show is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle the NFL action all season long with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today to get started. Let's see here. Ben said that NBA, that Suns Jazz line is -2 in favor of the Suns on the road on Tuesday night. You obviously have all sorts of games going on in the association. What is Thursday Night Football this week? What does that look like here? I mentioned that I think that you just bet the Chiefs most weeks. You're pretty good. The Lions -820 at home is another huge line. I probably would stay away from Thursday night if you're trying to get that first win, if I'm being honest with you.
Commanders, Eagles.
Commanders, yeah, that is a tough one. Maybe Texans against maybe Trey Lance might be a nice win to stack in there.
Just bet the Cardinals.
Well, they're on their bye. So I usually go to Cardinals, but
Cardinals aren't on a bye this week.
Oh
my gosh.
Okay, we got our Sunday free. I just freed up Ben's Sunday. He didn't even know.
Do what you were doing.
We gotta get that 150. Get the win. Get the 150, and then get to work betting KD for MVP, Ryan Dunn for Rookie of the Year, whatever other shenanigans you want to do. All at FanDuel.com. Closing out the show, Mike Shearer. He is at Basketball Poetry, I believe, on Twitter. He writes the Basketball Poetry newsletter. He also contributes one article a week straight to the Locked On newsletters that you can sign up for in that link in the show description below, or go to lockedondaily.com, click the Suns logo, type your email in there, get that delivered directly to your inbox every single day. But he wrote about Beal. We didn't pay him. We didn't tell him to do it, Ben, but he just found Bradley Beal's defense to be very, very impressive so far. And I'll just start us off with the numbers. I know the all-in-one advanced metrics can be, take it or leave it. Not everybody's cup of tea, but they do generally help when you're looking at years and years to paint some trends. And what these show is that so far the impact that Bradley Beal has been able to put forth when he's on the court in terms of how the Suns defense performs when he's out there, the best or right up there with the best since John Wall was wearing blue and red and white of Beal's entire career. And I'm going to tell you, Ben, it feels like that to me.
Oh, it passes the eye test. We talked about this yesterday. We've talked about how Bradley Beal continues to do all of the little things. I wonder how it's going to. This was a thought I had when I saw that you had sent me that. I was just like, I wonder how that's going to allow his body to hold up over time, because he's such a fragile guy and unfortunately injury-prone guy, but he is getting in the weeds of things. He is ripping balls from players. He is getting in for scrappy rebounds. He is diving on the floor. He has been easily the most active and engaged Bradley Beal that we have ever seen with the Suns. And I would argue as well from his last year with the Wizards that I understand he was really good in, but statistics don't tell the full story. These are box score watchers. This was yesterday when I was like, well, these people, Bradley Beal hasn't been very good. Those are dummies on the internet that don't understand basketball and are not watching the games and are box score warriors. So when you had sent me that, it checks out for me. The eye test, it's the best defense I've ever seen him play, and he was seen as a non-defensive guy. He has been miles defensively better than Devin Booker this year. Way better.
Agreed. That I agree with 100%.
Not even close.
I mean, it's funny you say he was thought of as a not defensive guy. I mean, he kind of had that reputation and then shed it away over time, right? Like when I reference those Wall years, he kind of was a 3-and-D player back then, right? It's just that was like 10 years ago. And
young player.
Yeah. And, basically from the time that Wall got those lower body injuries and then got traded away or cut or whatever it was, and Russ comes in and the games just start mattering less and less, there was just no need, and he got the injury bug himself, Beal did, and I think it just kind of was an open question. But here's how I've kind of tried to think of it. I think that Bradley Beal can be, right, he's a little on the smaller side. He's not Drew Holiday in terms of sturdiness. He's not Ryan Dunn in terms of height and length, right? He's never going to be anybody's version of a physical freak and marvel stopper prototype on the defensive end. But I kind of look at him and the types of matchups he gets assigned under both Vogel and Budenholzer, the way he plays defense, where he's not going to stonewall guys. He's not going to fly through screens and slither and not going to create a bunch of turnovers. He's just steady. I look at that and I think, poor man's KCP. Poor man's Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, right? KCP's never made an all-defense team. He's never been somebody where we come away saying, wow, he locked so-and-so down for a whole playoff series. But he's not going to make mistakes, and you more than trust Bradley Beal to, heading into a regular season game, heading into a playoff game, put him on a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, put him on a Jamal Murray, put him on a John Morant, put him on a Kyrie Irving come playoff time, and at least just trust that it's not going to be a fire that you have to put out. Poor man's KCP. You like it?
I mean, I love it if he's a poor man's KCP. I'm not sure how true it is, but here's the question I'll ask you really quickly, because I thought about this as you were saying, well, years ago, he wasn't seen as that. He got that reputation, but as games start to matter less was the trigger keywords in my brain that led me to this question for you. Has Bradley Beal always been a good defensive player, but just packed it in for years with the Wizards because it never mattered? And as soon as games started mattering more, he tapped into that defensive potential, and he's always been this guy. He's not necessarily maybe improving a little bit, but he's not necessarily improving it, but it kind of moves over to my point as well, is he just looks more engaged. Was this always what Bradley Beal was, and we were just all fooled because the Wizards never played games that mattered?
6'5", 6'8" wingspan, has solid athleticism. I think all NBA players can be good defenders. Almost all NBA players can be good defenders. Especially if you have those physical tools. Yeah. Especially if you have good enough physical tools. I don't think every NBA player can be a great defender. I don't think every NBA player wants to be a good defender. But I think most players that are in this league, unless you're just scrawny or you just straight up can't read the speed of NBA basketball, which is a very small minority, and we could probably say the names off the tops of our heads for both of those categories, then you're going to be able to do it. It's just a matter of if you want to, and if you're in a scheme that can maximize what you do well. And so I think this was honestly the only thing that ever limited me from thinking Beal could do this, Ben, is the fact that he is so brittle.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, like you said at the beginning of this whole segment, that does creep into Bud's mind in terms of the matchups and the run he's giving him doing all this every night, but you kind of have to. So probably
for now you have to, but it does show you, and we saw this last year towards the end of the season, that when games matter, when the Suns need to get a stop, when Bradley Beal needs to help the Suns get a stop, he can do that. Like, he's not a liability defensively. Now, is he going to get blown by in a game against the Hornets because they're up by 15 and we don't want him to get hurt? Yeah. That's part of the assignment with Bradley Beal. Stay healthy. So, yeah, I don't think that, and I know you don't think this as well, but I don't think that's a killer for him. As long as he can get situational stops, that's all I care about. I don't care about making the ESPN top 10 with a chase down block.
He's a good team defender. He uses his length, his positioning well. He doesn't just have to be on the ball to make an impact. I would say him and Book are both a little bit foul prone, Book more so, but Beal has a little bit of that too. So yeah, far from perfect, far from elite, but
where is he this year?
Far better than we thought he would be when he got.
Where's he this year? Top 3, top 5, top 6 defender on the Suns. It's better than Booker.
See, you mentioned that. It's
better than Allen.
I argued with on, crapping on Beal. And I said he's been the best perimeter defender on the team this year because of the fact that Dunn doesn't play a lot. I understand Ryan Dunn is a better defender, but if you're just asking me, overall who's been able to add the most with their perimeter defense, I think it's him because he plays 30, 35 minutes every night doing this. So, but just in terms of overall, I think he's probably behind Dunn and KD and maybe Royce. And then center is kind of a whole different ball game, But
yeah, and I still think he's better
right
than I still think he's better than Yusuf Nurkic as a defender.
Yeah, I think he's right there with the vets, with KD, Royce, him. I think it's just sort of night to night who makes the most plays, who has a matchup where they can impact the game the most. But
wasn't expecting that this year, but it's nice to have.
Exactly.
Was not expecting it. Another thing that just popped out of somewhat nowhere, thin air.
Harkening back to when he was a spry 19-year-old here in purple and orange. That'll wrap us up. Hit follow, subscribe if you haven't already. We got a back-to-back coming. We'll have recap shows for you after each one, Tuesday night, Wednesday night in Utah and Sacramento. Become an everydayer, guys. We got content for you every single day. Get it wherever you get podcasts. Enjoy your Tuesday. We'll catch you later.